It's really interesting looking at all these articles you sent over
Oh, yeah.
about high-paying jobs you can get with certifications.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like you're thinking about a career change. And honestly, it's a good time to be exploring those options.
Yeah, what's really fascinating to me is how much emphasis employers are putting on certifications now.
Right.
Like, it seems like the whole game is changing, It's not so much about having that fancy degree anymore.
Totally.
It's really about having those practical skills.
Mm-hmm.
Companies want to see that you can actually DO the work, not just,
Right.
that you sat through a lecture about it once.
Yeah. Like, gone are the days when you needed that degree to get your foot in the door.
Exactly.
And you've got some great sources in here, by the way. We've got Coursera, Forbes, Simply Learn, Indeed, and even like a really in-depth Reddit thread.
Wow.
All of them are saying that 2024 is the year for certifications.
And you know what the best part is?
What's that?
They're not just talking about like a small pay bump or anything.
Okay.
These articles are talking about some seriously impressive salary jumps.
Just like,
Yeah, we're talking tens of thousands of dollars per year.
Wow.
Sometimes even doubling your salary with the right certification.
Okay, now you're speaking my language.
Right.
Give me those dollar signs. I did see that Forbes actually broke down the numbers.
Yeah.
And they said that if you become a certified project management professional, a PMP,
Right?
you can boost your salary to over $140,000 a year.
It's incredible, right?
I mean, who needs a corner office when you're making that much?
Yeah.
Right.
But what's really eye-opening to me?
What's that?
It's how many different fields are embracing this whole certification thing.
that's true.
Like your Coursera article, for example, they mention everything from like commercial pilots to lift engineers.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that one.
These are high-paying jobs that don't require a traditional 4-year degree.
That actually reminds me of something else we found.
What's that?
Even big companies like Google and Apple,
Oh, yeah.
they're starting to ditch degree requirements
Interesting.
for some of their positions.
Wow.
They're prioritizing skills and experience.
It makes sense, though,
Yeah.
in this day and age,
It really does.
to have that practical experience.
Have you noticed that even some job postings are specifically mentioning those Google career certificates now?
Oh, absolutely. It's becoming like a whole new ballgame out there.
It really is.
Speaking of new and different, did you see that Reddit thread from someone in the food quality control industry?
Oh, yes. That one was so interesting.
Isn't that cool?
Yeah.
To get that insider's perspective?
Yeah, they were talking about how certifications like HACCP and PCQI were basically their ticket to a great job.
Exactly. And they even offered to share their resume. Can you believe that?
I know. And gave advice on navigating that whole world.
Yeah. Talk about insider info.
It really highlights how important it is to kind of look beyond those, quote unquote traditional career paths
Absolutely.
and be open to different industries.
Yeah. It's not just about what you know anymore.
Right.
It's about how you can prove it.
Exactly.
And certifications are that proof.
So true.
Right.
But let's get back to those certifications for a second.
Okay.
Because we've talked about, the higher salaries and, faster career changes and stuff.
Right.
But there has to be more to it, right?
Yeah.
Like, why are these certifications suddenly so hot? What's driving this whole shift in the job market?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
It really is.
And to answer that, I think we need to look at the bigger picture.
Okay.
We're in the middle of a massive technological revolution.
That's true.
Things like automation, cloud computing, AI,
Yeah.
all of that is transforming industries left and right.
Okay, but hold on a second.
Yeah.
For those of us who aren't like tech wizards or whatever,
Right.
what does that actually mean for like our job prospects?
That's a great question. It boils down to this. The skills that were in demand, even just a few years ago,
Yeah.
are rapidly changing.
Uh-huh.
Some jobs are becoming automated,
Okay.
while others are emerging to support these new technologies.
So it's like a double-edged sword, kind of.
In a way, yeah,
Yeah.
but it's also an opportunity
Okay.
because instead of spending 4 years and a fortune, let's be honest,
Oh, yeah.
on a degree that might be outdated before you even graduate,
That's true.
you can get a focused certification
Right.
in a high-demand field.
And that could be like your express ticket to a really fulfilling and well-paying career.
Exactly.
And plus, you can usually complete those programs much faster than a traditional 4-year degree, right?
It's all about adaptability,
Right.
know, and lifelong learning
Mhm.
because the job market is constantly evolving.
Right.
So you need to be able to evolve with it.
I like that.
And that's where those certifications come in.
It's like giving your resume a turbo boost.
Exactly. You got it.
Because you're not just another face in the crowd, you know?
Right.
You're showing those employers that you have the specific skills and knowledge that they need.
Absolutely.
And that you're invested in, you know, staying ahead of the curve.
You got to stay relevant, right?
Exactly.
That's the key.
Yeah, very important.
But, you know,
Yeah.
before you just jump into the first certification program that catches your eye,
Wait.
you really have to sit down and consider what you're passionate about.
I'm glad you brought that up because that was a point that came up in pretty much every single one of these articles.
Really?
Yeah, that money is important,
Of course.
but it shouldn't be the only factor.
It has to be something you enjoy doing.
Exactly.
It's about finding that career that, you know, aligns with your interests and your values as well.
Right, like what good is a high salary if you're miserable doing it?
Exactly. That's what it all comes down to.
You're going to be spending a lot of time at work.
Exactly.
It might as well be something you enjoy.
Absolutely. So let's find something that you're going to love doing.
I like the way you think.
All right.
Okay, so we've established that certifications can be a game changer,
For sure.
especially in this, you know, crazy job market we've got going on.
It's a wild world out there.
It really is.
Right.
Now let's dive into some specific examples
Okay, let's do it.
of high-paying certification jobs that might pique your interest.
I'm ready. Where should we start?
Well, since you seem to be interested in these, like, impressive salaries and stuff,
I do love a good salary.
let's start with one of the highest-paying certification jobs out there.
Oh.
Commercial pilots.
Really?
Yes, commercial pilots.
Yeah.
Okay, that one sounds
It's a cool one. Roll.
both,
Yeah.
like, exhilarating and slightly terrifying at the same time.
Right. You're soaring above the clouds.
Yeah.
You're responsible for hundreds of passengers.
Mm-hmm.
Navigating those complex systems, it's high pressure.
I bet.
But, you know, that's reflected in the earning potential.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
High risk, high reward.
Exactly. Speaking of reward, you mentioned some pretty impressive figures earlier.
Oh, yeah, your Intelligent.com source. They list the median salary for commercial pilots at over $113,000 a year.
Get out of here.
More than double the national median income.
No kidding.
Crazy, right?
Okay, now you've got my attention.
Right.
So besides a strong stomach and nerves of steel, what does it actually take to become a commercial pilot?
So you won't necessarily need a traditional 4-year degree,
Okay.
but buckle up because you will need extensive flight training.
Okay.
We're talking about getting your commercial pilot certificate from the FAA,
Mm-hmm.
which requires a minimum of 250 hours of flight time.
250 hours. I can barely sit still for like a 2-hour flight.
It's a commitment for sure.
Wow. Maybe 6 figures would cure my fear of flying, though.
Right. Maybe.
What other high-flying career paths did we find in this stack of articles?
Well, if the thought of all that time in the air makes you a little queasy,
A little bit.
maybe something a little closer to sea level would be a better fit.
Okay.
Actually,
Yeah.
several of your sources,
Yeah.
particularly the Indeed.com article I noticed,
Okay.
they highlight marine-related jobs
Oh, really?
as being both lucrative and
Okay.
surprisingly accessible through certifications.
You know, I've always been fascinated by the ocean, but
Yeah.
I do tend to get a bit, you know, green around the gills on anything other than solid ground.
Right.
Does that rule me out of those maritime adventures?
Not necessarily.
Right.
Remember those ship engineers we touched on earlier?
Oh, yeah.
They're the ones working below deck, you know,
Mhm.
making sure everything runs smoothly.
Right.
And your Intelligent.com source lists their median salary at over $94,000.
All right, sign me up.
There you go.
That's a ship I can get behind.
I see what you did there.
No pun intended,
Yeah.
or maybe a little intended.
A little bit.
But seriously, what exactly does a ship engineer do? It sounds like a pretty demanding job.
Yeah, they're kind of like the unsung heroes of the sea, you know,
Yeah.
keeping those massive vessels moving.
Oh.
We're talking about operating and maintaining everything, like
What?
from engines and boilers to complex electrical systems and even refrigeration.
Wow.
It's a highly skilled role, a lot of responsibility.
So how do you go from, like, fixing a leaky faucet in your house
Right.
to, like, maintaining the inner workings of a cargo ship? Is there, like, a ship engineering 101 I can sign up for?
You'd be surprised. While some ship engineers do come from those traditional engineering backgrounds,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of them gain their skills through specialized certificate programs and apprenticeships.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, and your Indeed.com source,
Yeah?
they actually highlighted apprenticeships as a really common pathway
Interesting.
for a lot of these high-paying trade jobs.
Apprenticeships, that makes sense. It's like you're learning on the job,
Exactly.
but with a structured program and hopefully some paychecks coming in.
Exactly. And no student loans.
Right. That's the best part.
Huge bonus.
Huge bonus. But let's get back to these maritime jobs for a second.
Okay.
What about, actually steering the ship?
Right.
Is that a certification thing, or do you need like a fancy hat and years of experience at sea?
You might need the hat eventually. But surprisingly, you don't necessarily need years of experience to get started.
Really?
That same Intelligent.com article about the high-paying certificate programs,
Mm-hmm.
they actually rank captains, mates, and pilots of water vessels as the third highest-paying job that you can get with a certificate, with a median salary of almost $89,000.
Another potential six-figure career path.
Isn't that wild?
So how does one go from like landlubber to captain of your destiny? Or at least like captain of a tugboat.
Well, it takes more than just a good sea shanty, that's for sure.
Darn.
You'll need a combination of training experience and licensing from the U.S. Coast Guard.
Okay.
But there are certificate programs that can get you started.
Okay.
And like a lot of the jobs we've talked about, an apprenticeship can provide invaluable hands-on learning,
Under the guidance of someone who's been there, done that.
Exactly.
I'm starting to notice a theme here.
Oh, yeah. What's that?
It seems like the path to these high-paying certification jobs
Yeah.
often involves a blend of, that formal training,
Right.
but also that real-world experience.
Absolutely.
It's not just one or the other. It's about finding that, like, sweet spot.
Finding that balance.
Yeah. That works for you and, whatever field you're going into.
You've hit the nail on the head.
Have I?
You have. It's about being proactive,
Yeah.
taking control of your career journey, and recognizing that there are multiple routes to success,
Right. It's not just one straight line.
Exactly. These articles are like a roadmap, but ultimately you're the one charting the course.
Ooh, I like that.
Right.
Speaking of charting a course, this deep dive has already taken us on quite a journey.
It has been quite a ride.
We've gone from, like, the wild blue yonder
Yeah,
to the high seas.
that's right.
And we've only just begun to scratch the surface of high-paying certification jobs.
Barely scratched the surface.
But before we set sail for our next destination, I think it's time to come back to Earth, literally.
Agreed. Let's explore some land-based options
Yeah.
for those who prefer their adventures a little closer to home.
After all that talk about planes and ships, I think I'm ready to plant my feet firmly back on solid ground.
Yeah, I hear ya.
What other high-paying certification jobs did our sources uncover?
Well, if you're looking for something challenging and incredibly rewarding, both Indeed and Intelligent.com suggest checking out firefighting.
Firefighting, wow. That's
Yeah.
a profession that demands a lot of courage
For sure.
and the ability to, like, think on your feet.
Absolutely.
I'm not sure I have the nerves for that kind of pressure.
It's not for everyone, that's for sure.
Plus, I always just assumed it took, like, years of intense training and stuff.
You're right, it's not a job for the faint of heart.
Right.
But it might be more accessible than you think.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, a fire academy is definitely part of the journey.
Yeah.
A lot of aspiring firefighters actually get their start with a post-secondary certificate program.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, and these programs, they cover like the essentials of firefighting,
Right.
fire prevention, even emergency medical response.
So it's about more than just putting out fires.
Oh yeah, there's a whole other level of knowledge and skills involved.
Wow.
Firefighting is a multifaceted profession. It goes way beyond, hoses and ladders.
Right.
It requires teamwork, problem solving, a deep sense of community service.
Yeah, for sure.
And as your sources pointed out, it can be a very well-paying career too.
Okay.
That top 15 high-paying certificate jobs article
Yeah.
listed the median salary around $52,500.
Not bad at all, especially for something that doesn't require a 4-year degree.
Right, and I imagine the benefits package is probably pretty good too.
I would imagine, yeah, considering the risks.
Exactly. Firefighters typically receive excellent benefits,
Okay.
health insurance, retirement plans, paid time off.
Makes sense.
But beyond those tangible benefits,
Yeah.
there's also the satisfaction of knowing that you're making a difference
Right.
in your community, like every single day.
I can definitely see the appeal in that.
Yeah,
Combining skill with, like, a sense of purpose,
absolutely.
But let's be honest, not everyone's cut out to run into burning buildings.
That's fair.
So what about those of us who, like, prefer a more behind-the-scenes role.
Okay, yeah.
But still want to work in a field that's in demand,
Well, if you have a knack for both the technical and the creative,
Okay.
several of your articles suggested looking into being an architectural drafter.
Oh, now that's an interesting one.
Right.
I've always been kind of fascinated by architecture and design, but
Yeah.
I'll admit, all those math classes in school were not my favorite.
Right.
Is that a deal breaker for this kind of career?
Not at all. While a good grasp of math and geometry is definitely helpful,
Right.
a lot of aspiring architectural drafters,
Yeah.
they develop those essential skills through those specialized certificate programs.
Oh, okay, cool. So what exactly does an architectural drafter do?
So they basically take those dreams, and turn them into a reality that you can build.
Wow, so are we talking designing skyscrapers and those dream homes you see in magazines?
That's more the architect's job.
Okay.
Architectural drafters, they work closely with architects and engineers to create those really detailed drawings and plans that are used to actually construct those buildings.
So they take those initial sketches and ideas
Exactly.
and translate them into blueprints.
You got it.
That construction crews can actually follow. Wow, it sounds like they play a really crucial role in that whole process.
Oh, they're essential.
Are those blueprints translating into big paychecks for these detail-oriented creatives?
You bet. The top 15 high-paying certificate jobs article, they listed the median annual salary for architectural drafters around $57,500.
Wow. Not a bad payday.
Right.
For a career that combines those technical skills with an artistic touch.
Yeah, you get the best of both worlds.
This whole deep dive has been so eye-opening. Who knew there were so many options for well-paying, fulfilling jobs that didn't require, going down that traditional 4-year college route?
It's really amazing.
It's definitely given me, and I hope our listeners, a lot to think about.
That's what we're here for.
That's the beauty of exploration, right?
Yeah.
It's about challenging those, preconceived notions we might have about career paths and stuff.
Absolutely. It's about broadening those horizons.
Yeah, and just discovering new possibilities that we might not have even considered before.
Exactly. You never know what's out there.
It's like you opened up a whole new world.
I love that.
And speaking of opportunities, I think, the biggest takeaway from all of these articles is that the job market is changing so rapidly.
Oh, absolutely. At a breakneck pace.
What was in high demand yesterday could be obsolete tomorrow, right?
Exactly. But here's the thing.
Yeah.
The skills you develop through these certificate programs, skills like critical thinking, problem solving, adaptability,
Right.
those are timeless.
That's true.
Those are the skills that will serve you well no matter where your career path takes you.
That's such an important point. It's not just about, getting a job. It's about equipping yourself with those skills.
Exactly.
And knowledge to thrive in a world that's constantly changing around us.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Well, on that note, I think we've successfully navigated this deep dive into the world of high-paying certification jobs.
We did it, and we lived to tell the tale.
We did. But before we wrap up, I want to leave our listeners with one final thought.
Okay, I like it.
As you're exploring these different certificate programs and, kind of picturing yourself in these exciting careers, remember to look beyond the salary figures.
That's important.
Think about what truly motivates you, what kind of work environment you thrive in, what kind of impact you want to make on the world.
It's about finding that alignment between your passions and your career.
Finding a career that aligns with your values and your passions, that's the real key to long-term fulfillment and success.
Couldn't agree more.
And on that note, we will leave you to ponder your next move.
Happy exploring, everyone.
Happy exploring.